to get your fix.
Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready? Are you ready to get your fix? Are you ready to get your fix?
With the Wicks here on this beautiful Friday, June 10th, 2022, and welcome to the show, whether that's on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, do me a favor, hit the like and hit the share. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe. It would be very much so appreciated. So yesterday we had the news of Cooper Kupp signing a massive extension, locking him up with the Los Angeles Rams for I think the next 5 years through 2026 for $110 million total. It was a 3-year, $80 million extension basically, so he got a massive payday. The Rams this offseason have been making, well, changing lives basically over there. They signed Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. There was another one, I can't remember off the top. Allen Robinson got signed as well. So the Rams have been making a lot of moves this offseason, but they aren't the only team. Obviously the Miami Dolphins have and blah, 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 but the Raiders have just made a massive move as well. And we'll get to that here in just a minute, just a little bit basically, because Hunter Renfrow got signed a pretty decent extension with the Raiders. But before then, we'll talk about the Davante Adams situation. He's been speaking, or he has spoke on his decision to leave Green Bay and if he's been in contact with Aaron Rodgers. So we'll talk about that. We'll give you a little snippet of what he said. And then, Jason Garrett is going to be replacing Drew Brees on NBC's pregame show, Football Night in America. What does that mean? What is my opinion on that situation? We'll get to that here in just a few moments. And to end the show, we have the Commanders' defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, getting fined by head coach Ron Rivera. What does that mean, and what comments did he make to cause this fine? We'll get to that towards the end of the show. So with that being said, are you ready to get your fix? So Jason Garrett is going to be replacing Drew Brees on NBC's pregame show, Football Night in America. Now last season basically, Drew Brees had the role of being on Football Night in America, giving his insight and talking about the game that was just about to happen. After one season, Drew Brees thought his place was to be in the broadcasting booth, like a Joe Buck, like a Troy Aikman, like a Tony Romo, Jim Nantz, Chris Collinsworth, what's his fucking name? Don't know why. Al Michaels. I don't know why I said Adam, but Al Michaels. That's where he thought he belonged. He did one game, the Saints-Bucks game, in which I believe Drew Brees was inducted into the Saints Ring of Honor or something like that. So it was definitely, or they were honoring him or whatever the case was. So he got to do that game, and he felt like that was his new role. That's where he felt like he should be. So he left NBC after just one season, expecting to get a massive offer, a job to become a number one broadcaster in the booth. However, spots are being filled. Amazon Prime, who has Thursday Night Football, now has Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. ESPN has Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. CBS, Tony Romo, Jim Nantz. Fox, all right, we'll go to NBC. NBC, Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico. And then you go to Fox. Fox was the only one with an open spot for quite some time. They obviously, I believe, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on this. Should have fucking looked this up before, but I didn't, Got to be more prepared. That's my fault. Right here. Kevin Burkhardt. I don't know why that was slipping my name. They had Kevin Burkhardt as their announcer. That was the only one that was set in stone. There was still a place to be filled to sit next to Burkhardt or Kevin Burkhardt there. Drew Brees thought that he might get that opportunity, might land that job because he left NBC. However, that has not been the case, especially after hearing about Tom Brady signing or basically agreeing to have a 10-year, $360 million contract once he's done playing to be the new broadcaster, to be the main analyst or whatever his role is going to be there. They're kind of vague on that whole situation or that the information there, but that was an open role. So why not get it for one season and then kind of leave and try to test the waters elsewhere, especially if Al Michaels retires, especially if Chris Collinsworth retires, which who knows if that's going to be the case. But that role was open, and Drew Brees felt like that was going to be where he was going to land. Obviously, that is not the case with Greg Olsen taking over that second Fox role to be paired with Kevin Burkhardt. So now Drew Brees has kind of been pissed. He's kind of sitting in the waters, doesn't know what he's going to do. He came out and said, listen, all these rumors, all these speculations, you can do whatever you want, but until that time, just know I will be the one to let you know what happens with my future and my career down the road. So now there was a void at NBC on their pregame show, Football Night in America, which I believe that would be Monday Night Football, I believe, is what they got, or Monday night, or no, that'd be Sunday Night Football. So who's going to fill that role? Well, they have officially found that person. Former Cowboys head coach, former Giants, New York Giants offensive coordinator, Jason Garrett will be taking over Drew Brees' role on NBC's pregame show Football Night in America. Now, I'm okay with this because for those of you that didn't watch the USFL opening week, Jason Garrett was an analyst there, a pregame analyst there. And from that moment on, I felt like he was doing a phenomenal job. He did an exceptional job. It seemed that he was real professional. He knew what he was talking about. And of course, he's going to know what he's talking about because he was and has been a head coach in the National Football League. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to football. So with adding him to the NBC Football Night in America pregame show for NBC, I think that's a massive plus, not only for NBC, but for fans around the world. Because he's going to bring great insight to why teams are doing a certain thing. It's kind of like if you were to look at, or kind of an example here would be Tony Dungy, right? Tony Dungy's on these pregame shows every once in a while, and he gives that insight, he gives his opinion, and kind of reflects on his time as a head coach and why, well, he would have done different, or why the team is doing a certain thing that maybe he once did, and kind of gives a little, it's a different type of insight. Like, it's more of an informational, you kind of sit there and kind of want to watch and dive into the brain of Tony Dungy and what he's kind of doing over there and why they're doing that. And that's what Jason Garrett, I think, is going to bring to NBC in this pregame show for Sunday Night Football. I'm pumped for it. I think he's the right man for the job, at least at this point. And if he's not, we'll quickly understand that. Okay? It's not like he's going to come out week one and we're going to have, you're going to know right off the bat. If he's going to come in there week one, we're either going to know right away, oh, he's meant for this job, or probably going to have to find somebody new for this role. I don't think he's the guy for the job, but we'll have him this entire season for that pregame show, especially for you folks out there who watch it. I know I do every once in a while when I have the chance, after the 3 o'clock games get done, got to kind of finish doing the laundry, okay, taking the dog outside, feeding the dog, eating my food. So if I can tune in, I'll tune in and stuff like that. But just know Jason Garrett is taking over or replacing Drew Brees on NBC's pregame show Football Night in America. In other news today, Davante Adams has finally, or not finally, I guess, he has spoke on his reason to leave Green Bay and talked about Rodgers and if they've had any communication. Ari Mirov, thank God he did this, Pro Football Focus went on Twitter today and said Raiders wide receiver Devante Adams said today that one of the reasons he decided to leave Green Bay was because he didn't want to stay and then sacrifice Aaron not being there a year or two, or after a year or two. Adams says Rodgers understood his decision. So I'm going to be playing this little quick video. It's Davante Adams speaking. So kind of listen to what he's saying and how he's saying it, and we'll go from there. So here it is.
Okay. Have you had conversations with Aaron since leaving Green Bay, and what was that goodbye like?
Oh yeah, I mean we've talked multiple times, and we talked throughout the whole process too. And he was aware of where I stood, and I was aware of where he stood, and we had talks just like what he said the other day. He mentioned we had talks about his future and what he thinks his duration in Green Bay or just football in general would look like, and that played into my decision as well, because where I'm in my career. And this isn't a shot at anybody, any other quarterbacks or, in Green Bay. I love Jordan Love, especially. He's a great guy, but, I got aspirations of doing really, really big things and being remembered. And I just, it wasn't really a point in my career that I was willing to sacrifice, Aaron not being there, after a year or two. So my decision was to be here, and he respected that. He understood that, it has a lot to do with where I want to raise my kids, family, being closer to home. I mentioned that to you guys when I first came up here. I had my grandparents never seen me play in 8 years, so to be able to have my family closer, and the suites are a lot more expensive here, but now I can have pack the suite out with the family and kind of do that whole thing. So we've had a lot of great talks. He was in the match. I'm sure y'all know about that, and wanted me to go play a practice round with him in the morning, and I definitely would have gone and done that, but we had practice here, so he didn't have to be out there just yet. So but yeah, we've had a lot of good talks, man. He understands where I'm coming from. I understood where he was coming from, so we kind of just left it at that.
So that's Davante Adams, right? Speaking on his situation, leaving Green Bay, and why he wanted to leave Green Bay. And before, right before Rodgers made the decision, Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show. Obviously, the Pat McAfee show, Aaron Rodgers Tuesdays. He was on that show and basically kind of laid out, like, look, I have to make a decision. It's going to be before said time. And before that time, I'm going to have to sit down with, obviously I'm going to have to sit down with Davante because he's up for an extension. Let him know where I'm at, and others as well. Let him know what I am trying to think here, or what I'm doing for my future and what's best for me. And they have to know that. They have to be able to know my situation so that they can make their decision for their situation and make the decision what's best for their career. So obviously Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams sat down multiple times. They're best buddies. Okay, Aaron Rodgers says he loves the man. Okay, he always says, I love Davante. He's a brother, basically, and stuff like that. So they sat down multiple times. They still have a great relationship, which is good, because it doesn't make any sense not to have a good relationship, especially when you've built that bond and that chemistry over so many years. And for Aaron to kind of sit down and have a conversation with Davante and be like, hey, this is my thought process. This is what I want to do for the rest of my career. And kind of laid it out there step by step, process by process, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. I just thought you would like to know, and I want to hear your thoughts on what you are, what your decision might be. And then Davante gives him his decision and stuff like that. Probably they have a human conversation, okay? Not a yelling and arguing conversation. It's kind of like, okay, here's Aaron's side of it, what he wants to do. Now, Davante, you can answer to this. What would you like to say? And like, what is your decision going to be ultimately if I make my decision? And he kind of laid it out there. Like, with his career being at the peak of his career, he didn't want to sacrifice signing a massive contract, basically is what he said. I didn't want to sign a 4 to 5 year contract knowing that Rodgers might not be there in a year or two. And he said, no shots at the quarterback room. I like Jordan Love. I understand his situation. But it's not Aaron Rodgers is basically what he's trying to say. It's like, I built my career, built the foundation of my career with Rodgers. And if I'm going to go somewhere else in the league, I want to go somewhere else where I already have a built chemistry, where I already have somebody that I trust and know, and we can make changes on the fly. That guy being Derek Carr, they played at Fresno State together in college for 2 seasons. So I have to do what's best for myself, where I want to raise my kids like he laid out. My grandma hasn't seen me play in 8 years. That's ridiculous, okay? She can now come to games and see me. These suites, we can sell them out. They're more expensive, obviously. Allegiant Stadium, newly built stadium compared to Lambeau Field, okay? Lambeau, by the way, legendary, okay? I hope that stadium never gets torn down. It has to stay there. It's a staple in the National Football League, built a long time ago. It's kind of like the Fenway Park of baseball, right? Built in like 1912, been here for 110 years, basically. That's what Lambeau Field needs to be, okay? Because Vince Lombardi, Curly Lambeau, all those legendary coaches got to actually coach on that football field. And Adams kind of basically said, like, look, I respect your decision. I would like to be a Green Bay Packer, but on the franchise tag, I just can't do it, even if Green Bay offers me the same deal that the Raiders did. If you're going to be gone in a year or two, I have to do what's best for myself. And Rodgers understood that. Rodgers knew that. And that's why Rodgers had the balls and was man enough to sit down with him and have that conversation instead of just leaving him in the dust and all of a sudden like, yeah, I'll talk to him later after my deal's kind of done. You know, bam, here's my deal, 3 years, $150 million. Oh, by the way, Adams, what are you going to do now? You're going to leave? Oh, well, all right, sounds good. Instead of doing that kind of petty way, they had a man-to-man conversation so they both did what was best for their careers. And I'm glad that was the answer from Davante Adams, because you really couldn't have a better answer, because Adams obviously respects Rodgers, respects his decision, and Rodgers respects Davante and his decision. So ultimately, in the end, he's been the Raiders. That's why he decided to leave Green Bay. It was no ill will towards Green Bay at all. It was just he wants to do what's best for his career, for his family, and basically he wants to be in the Hall of Fame. Okay, he's the best receiver in the National Football League, and it's not even close. Not even close. You can look at stats and bring up stats and all this stuff, but if you're looking at the best receiver in the National Football League, you're looking at Davante Adams with a guy that can get massive separation, makes corners look silly, play after play, will literally catch every ball that's thrown to him. Teams have to double cover him or at least have a spy on him every single play. And if it's Derek Carr throwing him the ball, which Adams actually came out and said, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers basically have the same ability, okay? They're basically the same guy, just different routes, okay? Or different careers, basically, but the same type of quarterback. And if he's throwing him the ball, that chemistry that's already there, they can switch things up on the fly. I mean, Davante Adams is crazy. Okay, he's a beast on the football field. He's just a stud. So that's a good way to kind of look at it for Davante Adams, and a good way for him to kind of tell us what his thought process was and why he decided to leave Green Bay. And speaking of the Las Vegas Raiders, they've been making moves this offseason. Just like the Rams have, just like the Dolphins have, just like the Buccaneers have, just like a lot of teams have been doing this offseason. The Raiders have officially extended wide receiver Hunter Renfrow. This is coming after, a Pro Bowl season in which he had 103 receptions, 1,038 yards receiving, and 9 touchdowns. Pretty good year, especially if you get 1,000 yards. Okay, this is a guy that came from Clemson, probably wasn't going to be much in the NFL, but he landed with the right team at the right time. Okay, with Henry Ruggs' situation, all that stuff, he had to be the leader of that wide receiver room. Took complete leadership and did an amazing job with it the entire season. 1,000 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns. That's an unbelievable year, especially with over 100 catches. That's a really good job for Hunter Renfrow. But this extension is a 2-year extension worth $32 million. Of that $32 million, he gets $21 million guaranteed. This is a massive, massive contract. And this isn't the only one that they have done this season. Okay? Tom Pelissero reported on Twitter, the Raiders continue to take care of in-house priorities, right? Max Crosby got an extension. Okay, massive deal. I think it was like 3 years, $90 million or something like that. because I think his number's 90 or $99 million, 4 years, $99 million, I believe is what it was. They extended Derek Carr. And now Hunter Renfrow, obviously after having the season he did, gets an extension as well. And now you got to think, as Tom Pelissero said, Darren Waller's deal is the next logical one to address. Darren Waller, being a top 5 tight end in the National Football League, didn't have a great year last year by any means, but had a pretty solid year. 2 years ago, he was phenomenal. Top 3 for sure. The reason I don't say he's top 3 right now and I say he's top 5 is because you got George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and Mark Andrews. Okay? Mark Andrews is a pretty big, he's a stud, to say the least. So Darren Waller, you have to expect is going to be the next one that the Raiders are going to address, and expect that deal probably to get done within a week, maybe at least by July 15th because July 15th, I believe, is the deadline to sign deals, and whatever your deal is at that day or past that day is the deal you're going to be running with the whole entire season. So with those, the Raiders offseason spending list that Field Yates reported, Derek Carr, we talked about him, 3 years, $121.5 million. Davante Adams, 5 years. Often our outside linebacker Chandler Jones, 3 years, $51 million. And now Hunter Renfrow, 2 years, $32 million. Over $440 million in max commitments to 5 players. They're doing the exact same thing that the Rams did. And they're realizing that you have to pay your star players when the time is right. And the time is right now. And if you want to win a Super Bowl, you have to keep them around, keep them happy, make massive moves. The Raiders are doing so with those signings. So last but not least, a little bit more news around the National Football League. Defensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders, Jack Del Rio, made some comments that really pissed off a lot of people. Okay, made a lot of people pretty mad. Those comments really weren't the greatest comments, I guess. I won't speak on them just because I have my own thoughts, and it is what it is. But Commanders defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio basically said this. He said, I can look at images on the TV. People's livelihoods are being destroyed. Businesses are being burned down. No problem. And then we have a dust up at the Capitol, nothing burned down, and we're going to make that a major deal. That pissed off a lot of people. Now, I look at this comment, and I don't see any wrong in it. I guess he could have worded the dust up situation. But I don't understand why. I mean, he could have stayed away from this. I'm not sure the details of the situation, but just looking at it right here, I guess never mind. Okay. I understand what he's trying to say here, but at the same time, it's like you could have worded that way better. So we're just going to kind of leave that situation alone. But that's what he said. Okay? And because he made those comments, pissing a lot of people off, making the Commanders organization look bad, Commanders head coach Ron Rivera has fined defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio $100,000 for his recent dust-up comments regarding the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. The money will be donated to the U.S. Capitol Police Memorial Fund. We got a full statement here from Ron Rivera. I ain't going to say that statement, but I think this is because they're in Washington, they're representing Washington, D.C., basically, that whole area, so that's probably why he got fined that $100,000, plus he wasn't being smart with it. So after he made those comments, Jack Del Rio came out with a little statement. I'll read that statement here in just a second, kind of basically apologizing, in which this statement came very, very quickly after he made those comments. You have to think that he knew what he was going to say when he did say that. So here is his statement, I guess you could say. I made comments earlier today in referencing the attack that took place on the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021. Referencing that situation as a dust-up was irresponsible and negligent, and I am sorry. I stand by my comments condemning violence in communities across the country. I say that while also expressing my support as an American citizen for for peaceful protest in our country. I have fully supported all peaceful protests in America. I love, respect, and support all my fellow coaches, players, and staff that I work with and respect their views and opinions. So that was his statement there. He knew that it was wrong to say it. He could have worded it a little bit differently, which is what I was kind of referencing right away, is that, hey, like, there's not too much wrong with this situation or with this statement, but definitely there is something that you could have said differently and made it sound a little bit more, I don't even know. Like, he could have definitely, if he would have reworded that a little bit better, I think we wouldn't be having this conversation. He probably wouldn't have been fine, but since he worded it the way he did, which was not good. I mean, a dust up, that ain't a dust up. Okay, that's a fuck up. All right, that's what happened there, and it shouldn't have happened, but it did. It'll never happen again. We'll put it that way. Okay, I guarantee you it. But those comments were just not good. The remarks that he made were not good. He has been fined $100,000 by the Washington Commanders head coach, Ron Rivera. I don't think the organization did it. I think Ron Rivera decided to make that fine, kind of taking control of his staff. He brought Jack Del Rio in because that's who he wanted as his defensive coordinator. In doing so, he realized that Jack made a mistake, and he's going to discipline him for it. You want to be on my staff, you're not going to make those comments. Okay, you're going to be smart about your comments. So here's $100,000 that are coming to the Washington Commanders organization. Sorry about it, pal. So with that being said, that's all I have for you guys today on this glorious Friday, June 10th, 2022. Thank you so much for watching, whether that's on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, hit the like and hit the share. Okay, hit that share button. All right, that's a big one. Okay, you can hit the like all you want, hit the share. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe. It'd be much, much appreciated. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great and glorious weekend. Have fun while you're doing it. Be safe out there, make smart choices, and be happy. All right, we'll see you back here Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time. Like always, have a great rest of your day, and you just got your fix with the Wicks. Deuces, folks.